Good, good morning to you all. Thank you for tuning in. This is Comrade Daniel for TMI Transparency Media International speaking here from the great state of Texas here in the United States. I am going to be speaking about the Oxford University that they pick up this resolution of the United States. So, and I want you to stay tuned. And first of all, I want to thank all my viewers in and around the world, and thanks those in Ground Zero. I want to thank Ambazonian Defense System that has been fighting timelessly on the question on the southern Cameroon Ambazonian sovereignty. It has been quite some time. I know it's 4 years now since the people of southern Cameroon and declared their sovereignty after this brutal suffering with the foreign nations, La Republique du Cameroon. And since then, things has been going, although there has been uh, some ups and downs. But however, it has drawn the attention of the international community, although this process has been very sluggish as it's supposed to have. But however, we thank all our fellow brothers in and around the world for their continuous support for the quest for the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon and Ambazonia. So this time we know that the U.S. Senate resolutions that was published and has also drawn attention for many other nations. But one thing that I want to emphasize that these resolutions has all been focused on the law-making body. But the other arm of the government, which is the executive arm of government, are relatively silent, although some have spoken. But we want those arm of government because in a government you have three arm of government: the legislative, the executive, and the judiciary. And so all these three arm of government, and you realize that the legislative arm of government of international community has been coming with this crisis in southern Cameroon, and the executive branch, which is the one that enforce those critical decisions, some are relatively silent. So, but I'm going to be talking about these issues. But however, I am going to first of all dial on the question of the Oxford University conference on the U.S. Senate Resolution 684. And other resolutions too that I'm going to be bringing in was the United Nations Resolution 1514 XV. Another resolutions that I'm going to be talking about is United Nations Resolution 1514 XV and 1608 XV and Part 76B. So those are the key documents that I also will want to talk about it. So I wanted you to stay tuned and do not go away. This is Formunyoh Daniel speaking right here from the great state of Texas here in the United States, and stay tuned. As I said earlier, another key resolutions that I am going to be talking here is that of the United Nations Resolution 1514 XV and 1608 XV 76B. Those are the key documents pertaining to the people of Southern Cameroon. So we can talk about the United U.S. resolutions, and I'm going to talk about this interchangeably. So stay tuned and do not go away. This is Formunyoh Daniel here from the great state of Texas, here in the United States, on the question of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonian sovereignty. So stay tuned, do not go away, and I will be right back. Welcome, this is Comrade from Daniel. Welcome all my viewers in and around the world on the question of the Southern Cameroon sovereignty. Oxford University pick up the key resolution of the U.S. Senate 684. And so before I dive into, let's look at the key members of this. They said the Oxford University Senate resolution 684. On the conflicts of Anglophone Cameroon. There is one thing I want to clarify, because the world turned to look at the people of Southern Cameroon on Anglophones. Although Anglophones share the identity of the people of Southern Cameroon, there's more to just an Anglophone, So the people of Southern Cameroon came into this, what they call a wedding that never have a marriage certificate. A wedding that never have a marriage certificate. And so it was some kind of relationship, like here in the United States, come we stay. Come we stay is acceptable here in the United States. That does not necessarily give you a provision of marriage. That doesn't necessarily mean you are a husband. So the people of Southern Cameroon has been living with a wedding that there was never a marriage certificate with this neighboring country, La République du Cameroon, for the past 50-something years, Unfortunately, La République, on a false assumption that the people of Southern Cameroon was in a wedding that they organized, like what you might listen to, what the so-called the Fumban talks and whatever. But in fact, the people of Southern Cameroon was deprived of their freedom. The people of Southern Cameroon were deprived of their freedom. But before I go into dealing with deprived of the freedom, okay, let's look at the panel that's going to be discussing. That is on February the 17th, 2021 at 4 p.m. GMT or 11:00 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And those the key familiar speaker on this question is Angela Quintal, Committee Protect Journalists for African Program Coordinator. That is New York, a committee to protect journalists in New York. And another person, important person in this debate or in this discussion is the retired Honorable Lord Boateng, the British House of Lords. You are familiar with him. He's been very vital on the question of the Southern Cameroon. He's also a member of this panel discussion. And still in this panel of discussion of the Oxford University Resolution 684 is Professor Hannah Garry, founder and director of Gold International Human Rights Clinics, University of Southern California at Berkeley. And another person on this debate, on this panel, is Dr. Roxana Willis, Principal Investigator of the Cameroon Conflict Research Group, a lecturer at the Criminal Law University of Oxford. And still part of this panel is Honorable Dr. Christopher Hoffman. That is the MP of Bundestag. That's the chairman of the Central African Group from Germany, Berlin. And still part of this panel is Dr. Christopher Formunyoh, Senior Associate for African and Regional Director at the National Democratic Institute of International Affairs, Washington, D.C. Those are the key members of this panel discussion that is scheduled on February 17 on the question of Southern Cameroon. And part 2 on this very panel will be on February 19, 2021. Speaker in this panel include Mboye Nyaundi, I'm sorry if the name was wrong. He's a senior staff attorney for Sub-Saharan Africa, Justice for Defenders Program, and American Bar Associations. Those are another that is taking place on February the 19th. Those are the key panels. Another person in this panel is Kyra Fox, research assistant, senior Center for Prevention of Genocide, United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. This is another member of this, and in addition to that, you have retired Honorable Emily Thornberry, MP, Eastern South of Finburg, British Parliament, and Congressman Chris Smith. And furthermore, you have Professor Frank Viljoen, Center for Human Rights, University of Pretoria, that's South Africa, and Honorable Dr. Sebastian Nyaundi, MP, French Parliament, Foreign Affairs Committee, and Nicholas Melaise and Morgan Smith, Center for Human Rights at the University of South California. So those are the key panels of these two debates, one on February the 17th and the second one on February the 19th. Those are going to focus on the key issues, the Southern Cameroon question. And so as you all listen to these key fundamental questions on the question of Southern Cameroon, and one keep on asking, what is the problem moving forward? So in order to move forward, stay tuned, do not go away, and this is Comrade Funton Daniel speaking live here from the great state of Texas, here in the United States. Stay tuned, do not go away. Another key important discussion, which is not in addition, in order to move forward on the question of Southern Cameroon, as you all listened from the initial message from the Oxford University panel discussion on February the 17th and the 19th on the key issues of Southern Cameroon. First, in order to be able to look into the critical question, there is no way beating around the forest or going around speaking about things that is not. But one thing that is relevant, that is understandable, is the key resolution 1514 XV of the United Nations Charter on the Southern Cameroon, United Nations Resolution 1608 XV and 76B. Those are the key essential documents that must be part of any discussion, because Southern Cameroon, by virtue of Article 1514 XV, it called for decolonization. I hope you get it well. It called for decolonization. It did not call for partial decolonization. So therefore, by speaking about the question of Southern Cameroon sovereignty, we realize that the British government, there was a case, which I don't know exactly, there was a case that citizens of Southern Cameroon filed in UK against the UK government on why option 3 were not being part of the discussion of the British administrative authority in the question of Article 1540 XV of decolonization. So these key questions, and the British court turned the case on the fact that the British government has no jurisdiction hearing the case, based on their argument that initially British government no longer have provision. So, but that was a systematic failure of the justice system in the UK in answering that question, because British government is still a partner to the United Nations. British government is still a key member of the United Nations, a permanent representative at the United Nations. So why did the option 3 were omitted by the British administering authority? So it would have been the court bringing back the hearing that why did that resolution was intentionally removed from the people from Southern Cameroon and regard vis-a-vis the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon. Because Article 1540 XV called for decolonizations. It did not call for partial decolonization. So if it did not call for partial decolonization, therefore the British government violated that article by personally instituting a law that never existed before. So therefore, the British government must unanimously request that that decision was poorly judgment of the British administrative authority by opposing option 3. Because the 3 options, there were 2 options that were provided, that the people of Southern Cameroon should opted to join La République or opted to join the neighboring country, La République du Cameroon. Option 3, which was omitted, and that is what the key provision of this resolution was. Wabat Abed Moko, in his book entitled Prisoner Without a Crime, he has several times imprisoned by La République du Cameroon because of his argument that option 3 should be on the table. Ahijo has been tried, imprisoning him several times because they knew he stood for the right thing, for the people of Southern Cameroon. So Waba Mugong is of late, and that is the most powerful person that asked for option 3. And why did the British administrative authority, after living with the people of Southern Cameroon, choose to deny them their option 3? And so therefore, talking about the Southern Cameroon provision, we must first of all look at Article 1540 XV of the United Nations. I do not know why many nations, when they write resolutions, they do not refer to the 1540 XV of the United Nations, because that is the key fundamental question that is applicable to the people of Southern Cameroon. Stay tuned, do not go away. This is Comrade Funton Daniel speaking here from the great state of Texas, here in the United States. Here again, back, this is Comrade Funton Daniel, back to the Oxford University, pick on the key resolution, U.S. Senate 684. Let's look at some of the resolution, some of the questions, some of the issues raised by the Oxford University, not Oxford University, the United Nations Resolution 1608, United Nations Congress, second session, Resolution 1684. I'm sorry for just intermediate, because there's so many of these resolutions. But however, I want to focus on the U.S. Congress Resolution 684, in which be part of the panel discussion that I just listed the members that will be in this discussion. Just stay tuned, wait, just hold on and. Sorry. But anyway, this is Comrade Fontan Daniel speaking here from the great state of Texas, here on the question of Southern Cameroon, and with the panel Oxford University debate on this on U.S. Senate Resolution 684. This is Fontan Daniel speaking here from the great state of Texas, here in the United States, and on the key provisions of this Senate resolution, which was adopted on January 1st, 2021. And the key member of these resolutions that was released on the key member of this resolution began on September 8th, and key member is Mr. Cadden, Mr. Young, Langford, Rubio, Mark A, Mr. Kuhn, Van Holly, Mr. Baldwin, Dolby, Warner, Macaulay, Kane, Sullivan, Cruz, Booker, Brown, Klopp, and Smith, Murphy. Those are the key members of these U.S. Foreign Committee resolutions that was submitted, 684, that was passed. And on the question of the ongoing crisis in Southern Cameroon. Some of the key issues raised was the official action of the Francophone-dominated government has been for the English-speaking crisis in Southern Cameroon. First, and they raised a serious concern about these issues ongoing in Southern Cameroon. First, the people of Southern Cameroon, as I always emphasize, is not a conquered territory. Southern Cameroon was never a conquered territory. Southern Cameroon was not a colonial territory of La République du Cameroun. Southern Cameroon came together with neighboring country La République du Cameroun of people of equal status, because United Nations Resolution 1349, that is the same resolution that is then Southern Cameroon Resolution 1514 XV, 1608 XV. So those are two separate resolutions of the United Nations. So therefore, people of Southern Cameroon came into this relationship as of equal status. So by virtue of those resolutions of the United Nations, La République has no power, no prerogative power to define the status of Southern Cameroon, in which they have equal status. Therefore, La République has no power in whatsoever to define the status of Southern Cameroon, because they don't have any power to do such an action. It will require the Southern Cameroon House of Assembly to be able to decide whether La République has any value. So it is the people of Southern Cameroon that should, in any circumstances, be able to, and not La République single-handedly, define the status of a sovereign nation that is equally the same status as La République du Cameroun. So the people of Southern Cameroon would, in any resolutions, to consider Article 1514 of the United Nations, SV, it called for complete decolonizations. It did not call for partial decolonization. So therefore, the people of Southern Cameroon has the right and prerogative power to decide and define their own status, and not by La République du Cameroun defining the status of Southern Cameroon. La République over time has been in such an influential to dismantle the status of Southern Cameroon. And it began by the previous Amadou Ahidjo to dismantle the status of Southern Cameroon and replace it with the Francophone. That is why you have the governors are all La République citizens. The DOs are all La République citizens. Military commander of La République citizens violate the norms of Article 1514, while British government play an essential role by ignoring the relationship that existed between the people of Southern Cameroon and the people during the administering authority. The British government violated the Statutes of Southern Cameroon during the administering authority and Article 1514, which called for decolonization. It did not call for partial decolonization. So it should be respected and recognized. Why the case that was brought up in the British court in regard to the UK government inadmissibly call for partial decolonization and ask the status of Southern Cameroon to be controlled by a foreign nation, La République du Cameroon. So we can all sing, talk, but we must go and look at Article 1514 XV. It's vital, it's essential, because that specifically called for decolonization. It did not ask that part of Southern Cameroon be initiated under partial decolonization to La République du Cameroon. Because you know all the reason. Because of the France. Because of France. That is the key. France more concerned on the mineral material deposit in Southern Cameroon. And that is why was the key issues that was never brought up. Because British government was intentionally satisfying his friend, France. Yeah, you can. No. Huh? Okay, it called for these resolutions. It is very, very critical. It is very critical that while these panel discussions are going to be talking about issues, the first thing they need to put into their discussion was Article 1514 XV. They need to look at this article, whether did it call for partial decolonization. The people of Southern Cameroon have gone through hell. And of course, no nations, France is doing everything it takes. Using this guy. Let's see. The United Nations Resolution 1514 XV on the Southern Cameroon questions called for complete decolonizations. It did not call for partial decolonizations. And so therefore, the people of Southern Cameroon are living on this nightmare and suffering, murdering and slaughtering of citizens of Southern Cameroon. Some people call it the Anglophone in La République du Cameroon. We are different from that phrase or paraphrase or characterizations. We are not people of Anglophone in Cameroon. We are Southern Cameroon. In fact, Ambazonian at the moment has been declared. We are not an Anglophone in Cameroon because key provision of the United Nations Article 1540 XV did not call for partial decolonization. It called for complete decolonization. As I'm using this word like this, maybe some people that are not familiar, they may be wondering, what am I talking about? So let me paraphrase to understand why we arrive at 1514 XV. So after the World War, 1945, which ended, so you remember the German that caused the German World War, Second World War. So the Allied forces that involved in the war against the German that was ended in 1945, the creation of the United Nations. When the United Nations was created, the territories that were under the control of the German and post-German So the Allied forces, member nations, were asked to take control of those territories. So Southern Cameroon happened to be one of the German territory that fall in line with the provisions that were under the British administering authority, and some other nations as well, like Nigeria and so many other countries. So France was also a member of the Allied forces. So after the victory ended, the formation of the United Nations, they said Article 1514 XV was the resolutions arrived at the United Nations that the territorial that were under this administrative authority should be completed, provide a full immediate independence. So therefore, the people of Southern Cameroon is in line with that provision. So therefore, we are asking that provision be reinstituted, because La République du Cameroon has no prerogative authority over the people of Southern Cameroon. So therefore, La République, using his military, brutalized the citizens of Southern Cameroon, killing our brothers and sisters, our mothers, and every part of our family, while we lie here and think that they are doing. No. We are asking the justice of community to look into this key question. And that is why people are deviating. They don't want to stand and speak the truth. And that is why I am bringing this consistently, so to understand why is La République doing in Southern Cameroon. That is essential, that we look at why is La République du Cameroon doing in Southern Cameroon. Because key provision of the United Nations Resolution 15 XV should be fully installed and fully recognized. Because the British government, as we speak, the British government seems not to pay close attention, especially the British executive arm of government. And the current Prime Minister, which is Boris Johnson, is still part of the series of some of the past Prime Minister. You know, in order to resolve the crisis is to look at those provisions. And as La République du Cameroon, we do not recognize you as a key member deciding decision on Southern Cameroon question per United Nations Resolution 1514 XV. So it is quite essential that we look into this critically. Stay tuned, do not go away. This is Comrade Daniel speaking live here from the great state of Texas, here in the United States. Of course, many people of Southern Cameroon descendants, remember that when they stand and declare, they recognize the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon. Many of them were picked up from Nigeria. They were picked up from Nigeria and dumped in Kondenge and fabricate their stories and create that there was a treason against a nation. La République has no provisions over the control of people of Southern Cameroon. We have all our citizens languishing in the neighboring country, La République du Cameroon prison. And they have no provision. So we are asking the world community, let's look at the resolution 1514 XV. And what does it specify? It clearly stated, and therefore La République has no mandate, no control over Southern Cameroon. So it is imperative that the world community look at these key provisions, because we can't talk about any further debate or issues without looking into the key provisions, because that provisions, it requires that Southern Cameroon be completely liberated, and citizens of Southern Cameroon that are languishing in Kondenge prison and in Douala and elsewhere that are being controlled by the brutal regime of Paul Biya and his draconic members, and place some individuals like illiterate, like Paula Tanganji, and some of those individuals that they have mentally deranged and can speak on people of Southern Cameroon. Those individuals has no voice to speak on people of Southern Cameroon. So therefore we are asking international community, that our family, our brothers and our sisters that are languishing in Konenge prison should be immediately released and returned to their home. And La Republic pack their luggage and get out of Southern Cameroon completely. All their colonial governors and ministers, gendarmerie, and all the rest, they need to leave Southern Cameroon as a naked child so that we begin to rebuild our territory, beginning from fresh. We do not need La Republic in whatsoever to determine on how we should, in what circumstances. So stay tuned, do not go away. The first thing is to look at the United Nations resolutions. United Nations need to sit up. I understand that the current United Nations setup, and first of all, it needs to totally clean up in the United Nations leadership, because they do not represent the African as a whole. They are more interested in French provisions. That is why France controls every aspect of this office they call the United Nations. They claim that they represent all diversified people of the society. And that is why I am very, very proud of Bill Clinton. You know, Brutus Garry of Egypt, he was one of the corrupted officials like the current administrations. His policy were in touch of reality. And by then, the U.S. president was Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton said over his dead body to see the United Nations being crumbled to. And that is why he said no. He vetoed the decision that Brutus Garry must depart. And it was a time when Africa has to represent the United Nations leadership. So he felt that it is essential that by representing the diverse view of the society and call for Brutus Garry's departure, therefore Africa still needs to be represented. And that is when Kofi Annan became the next executive director of the United Nations, or Secretary General of the United Nations. So Kofi Annan became the leader and was a finalist person that one can ever declare. But however, now that we have this mess that is going on right now, so the final thing that Biden administration can do is to veto the United Nations to replace the current United Nations Secretary General. Is the key provision to move on to facilitate peace to be able to reign, because it's the habit of corrupted system at the United Nations. This current structure, as you find, they have basically represent zero African as a whole. Because if the people of Southern Cameroon and elsewhere crisis that is happening, it's because of the corrupt system. You can look at the Central African Republic when the vehicle that had an accident and found that the material that was in that accident were gold that were being adopted by the United Nations. Is that the mission that they went to? Of course, if they need raw material, then they should be in a transparent way so that the profit should help the indigenous people in Central African Republic. So it is the most about the corrupted system that we have on this planet, and that France control every aspect in terms of leadership. He controls every aspect by France. So we cannot assume or believe that they represent African interests as a whole. So African leaders, they need to stand up and speak up, and not just dribbling around. No, they need to stand and speak up. That is the key to clean the mess that has been going on. While the United States is calling for this, the United States specifically said 3,000 deaths of citizens of Southern Cameroon killed by the military of La République du Cameroon. 3,000, that's just a figure U.S. believe. But the exact figure is more than this, is this number. Should at least 3,000 of citizens of Southern Cameroon be killed by a foreign government of La République du Cameroon when they have their status. We have our status. Therefore, the citizens of Southern Cameroon ought to be able to sit and debate whether do we have any relationship with La République du Cameroon. There is a boundary, there is a map that's specifically outlined. It shouldn't be in this way. It shouldn't. It shouldn't be. We have almost, per this resolution, 700,000 persons are internally displaced. That's the number U.S. Senate resolution put in place. Approximately 700,000 of citizens of Southern Cameroon internally displaced because of the invasion of a foreign nation, La République du Cameroon. I think we've got enough of this. We've got enough of this. Of course, even right at the border here in the United States, we still have our citizens. Of course, you know the 16 number that have been put on hold that were supposed to be deported. Those are citizens of Southern Cameroon. They have their territory, they have their land. They can live peacefully, but they have to stay away because of the invasion of the military of the brutal regime of La République du Cameroon, because they claim their ownership of Southern Cameroon. No, this is enough of this. It's enough. The people have the right and privilege to live peace and harmony without any foreign nation. La République has their own territory, and they should be able to reside in their territory and ignore and leave the people of Southern Cameroon in peace and in harmony. Stay tuned, don't go away. Of course, by virtue of the Southern Cameroon merit this criteria, therefore, United Nations should have immediately put their contingent in Southern Cameroon to protect the presidency of Southern Cameroon. And while waiting for the annual resolution to be immediately implemented, because La République du Cameroon has no contingent and authority over the people of Southern Cameroon. Of course, France blocked every aspect of discussion at the United Nations to put this provision that the United Nations contingent be deployed. Of course, you all see certain blue beret that La République, because they have been serving in somewhere in United Nations. Now they dispatch some of their military and place them with blue beret. They think people of South Carolina are so stupid. We are not stupid. We are not. They think the people of South Carolina are stupid and that they can use whatever demagogy to place their military with the blue beret. That is a violation of the United Nations, because they were not designated by the United Nations and had no authority whatsoever to carry their blue beret that they used in the previous war and place them in Southern Cameroon to pretend as though they were United Nations officials. This is absolutely wrong, and there should be penalty for those violations. But in a world where corruption is the key, the fundamental principle that overlies the world, control every aspect, and France does everything that it thinks. So it is our duty, collective duty, to expose so that the world can sit up and build a world that is comfortable for every humanity, not for a certain upper class, essential selected people, or people of different diverse color. No, everyone should be respected, you know. Stay tuned. Well, I think the Oxford resolutions panel on the question of Southern Cameroon, as it's becoming to a reality that they have, I think, February 17 and February 19, this key panel will be discussing the crisis in Southern Cameroon. But I will encourage them, if they are to discuss about the issues of Southern Cameroon, they must look at the Article 1514 XV and Article 1608 and 76B. Those are the key fundamental questions that must be put in place. We cannot just be beating the forest. We must look at the critical problems. And that is why it brought us to this mess that we have. So the people of Southern Cameroon deserve to be in their presidency. and love, with dignity, and be able to feel free that they are in their homes and without any involvement of a foreign nation, La République du Cameroon. The people of La République du Cameroon does not represent the spirit of the people of Southern Cameroon. So I will continue again on these key provisions. I want to thank all the panel and all those who will be discussing the issues. I urge the government, executive branch, to be more fully involved in this crisis, not just the lawmaking body. But however, they are the one to enforce. So I call on them to take note and that they need to be more facilitate this principle. We, the people of Southern Cameroon, will continue to raise the alarm. We will raise the alarm. We will raise it, until they recognize that the people of Southern Cameroon deserve their right and privilege to live in their home without foreign involvement of La République du Cameroon. Thank you and have a wonderful day. This is Comrade Funtan speaking here from the great state of Texas here in the United States. I wish you all a wonderful rest of your day.